Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, January 19th, 2018. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm very happy to be joined by Jonah Booker. J-Book, let's talk about the major question marks as we analyze Ohio State's football roster entering the 2018 season, something we'll be talking about throughout the offseason. But I think there are two major areas that I'm concerned about. Offensive line, specifically center and left tackle, and maybe they'll move Isaiah Prince over to left tackle, but regardless, a starting tackle, starting center, and then the outside linebacker spots. Those are my two biggest concerns. Let's start with the offensive line, center, left tackle. Do you agree those are concerns, and who do you think will fill those voids?
I do think the offensive line is a major concern. It's going to be a huge question mark going into the spring as well as the season, so that's something to definitely keep an eye on as far as how things are shaking out as far as in the spring. But one thing I can say, Dave, I know a lot of people on our message boards, they voiced their concerns in the boarding house in regards to the offensive line. I actually think this offensive line has the potential to be really good. If you look at it, there's a lot of top-end talent. Yes, we don't have maybe the experience coming back, and maybe there may be some question marks as far as the bodies and the depth there because there's been so much attrition. But I think if you look at the guys that are coming back, I think there's a lot of talent, and I have high hopes, and I believe this offensive line has the potential to be really, really good. And you mentioned Isaiah Prince. I think there's a fairly good chance that he can move to the left tackle. I know this guy had a huge bounce-back season this past year. I know moving from right tackle to left tackle is going to be a big ask about him, but I think he probably has the best feet as far as the offensive lineman guys who can be able to transition to that left tackle. I know that a lot of people are throwing around that Michael Jordan could be a guy that can swing out to the left side, but I just can't see it. I just don't think Michael Jordan has the feet. The guy, he really excels at run blocking and getting nasty inside the trenches, but he really struggles when it comes to his pass protection. And if he's put out there on the island at left tackle, it's only going to be exposed that much more. So I think Prince will be the guy. Now, that's going to open up the right side. The question will be, can Thayer Munford grab that spot, or will they think about kicking Bowen out if he's going to be healthy and back at full tilt? So it's a lot of question marks. Center, I know we talked about Brady Taylor a couple of weeks ago. I'm just not sold on him. I would like to see maybe a Josh Myers get a shot at that center spot, or maybe even Knox. But I think the talents there is going to be inexperienced. You're going to be looking for a lot of guys who are going to be pushing for Brady Taylor. I know he's probably going to get the first dibs at it to see if he can win that starting position. But I think overall, Dave, the offensive line has the potential to be really, really good.
I agree with you on Prince to left tackle, and I like the idea of Thayer Munford at right tackle. I think Ohio State was very, very fortunate the way it worked out during the 2017 recruiting cycle. Let's say the early signing period happened a year earlier. Maybe Thayer Munford, I know he wanted to be a Buckeye, so maybe he would have waited regardless. But with the academic situation, it really came down to the 11th hour, and Ohio State was very fortunate. And they landed Josh Myers. They landed Wyatt Davis. Everybody's talking about those two. And then, and they also got this throw-in at the very end. Well, who's the one who played as a true freshman? Thayer Munford. And who's the one who I think is going to be the starter next year? Thayer Munford. I really do. I think he's going to be the starting right tackle. Brandon Bowen, I did a piece for the site this week. You're talking about Pro Football Focus grades. J-Book, Brandon Bowen graded out really well. Demetrius Knox graded out horribly. So I think Brandon Bowen has to be a starter, and I think he's going to stay at right guard, and they're going to use Thayer Munford at right tackle. But just to speak more about that and just how maybe Ohio State really was fortunate how it worked out with Thayer Munford.
Yeah, Thayer Munford is what you call a gem there. Ohio State has made a living off getting in-state kids late in the process, and those kids end up turning into absolute gems for the program. And I think Thayer Munford, he's on that type of trajectory. And as you mentioned Knox, I think Knox, just counting off the top of my head, he probably had 2 good games this past year, and then that's coming off a horrible playoff game against Clemson. I mean, is the gig up for this guy? At what point would they start looking at other bodies? I want to see Wyatt Davis push him. I know during the Cotton Bowl, Urban Meyer was asked about him, and he gushed about Wyatt Davis, talking about how he's going to have a really bright future. So what is he going to do? And Josh Myers, I mean, I know he really needs to get his pass protection down coming from the offense that he played in high school, but what is he going to do? There's a lot of bodies, and you throw in Burrell, a lot of guys who's going to be pushing for a few spots. So the competition is there. That's why I say we're very top-heavy as far as talent with the offensive line, and a guy in Thayer Munford emerging only helps that offensive line room become more balanced as far as who you're going to be able to put out at tackle, because not everybody can play that tackle position, and Munford, as a true freshman, show that he has the feet to excel once he really gets some live game reps.
Let's talk some outside backer. I think the starters, at least the ones that will get the first shot, Malik Harrison and Dante Booker. Malik Harrison didn't grade out great this year or anything. He didn't grade out terribly. He's kind of like, middle of the pack. But I really like him. He's physical as hell, and I think some of the mistakes he made are correctable, and some of the attributes he has are not coachable. You either have him or you don't with Malik Harrison. So I am probably more bullish on Malik Harrison than most. Curious to get your take on him. Dante Booker, he'll probably be the other starter. Who else do you think might be in the mix, and just your thoughts on those guys?
Yeah, the entire linebacking core needs to step it up. I mean, it was just a poor effort this entire season from that unit. Billy Davis needs to earn his chops here. I mean, this was a unit that the Ohio State Buckeyes pride themselves on as far as the Silver Bullets leading the way. There was a drop-off as far as play from Luke Fickell to Billy Davis. Can they get that back? I think they have a shot. Dante Booker, not sold on this guy. Can he even stay on the field? I mean, what happened towards the end of the season last year, they kept a lot of that on the hush-hush. I mean, but the guy pretty much disappeared from the scene. He struggled to put on weight at his time at Ohio State, and injuries and inconsistent play as far as his read and reaction is just not there. So, the guy's been here for 4 or 5 years now. When is he going to step up and be a primetime player? I just don't know if we're going to get that from him. You mentioned Malik Harrison. I agree with you. I think the guy played outstanding against Michigan State after Baker and Booker went out after the Iowa debacle. I think Malik Harrison has the potential. He's a guy that Urban Meyer likes to say goes from point A to point B as hard as he can. The guy is a physical freak as far as his body. I think it's just going to be him learning the position. It's going to be up to Billy Davis to develop him. So I think he would definitely be in there getting some mix. A guy that I want to see make some noise is Keandre Jones. He's been quiet on his senior. He was a gem coming into this class. What is he going to do? And Browning, I think Browning has the potential to really push for playing time. I'm not sure if Tuff is big enough to be a true Mike. I think Browning has the body type. Could Tuff slide outside to be an outside linebacker? Maybe that's more of his natural position, because he's not very big in that middle. He flashed at times, but there are a lot of times where he really struggled to get off blocks. But you mentioned the outside linebackers. I just think the entire linebacking core needs to step up, and there's a lot of question marks. They have talent, but can Billy Davis coach them up?
If you had one other major concern or even minor concern when you look at this 2018 team, what would it be, J-Book?
I think this team is going to be dynamic, but the question that I have is, will Urban Meyer open the playbook up, and will he give free reign to Kevin Wilson and Ryan Day? We're going to see a different offense than what we've seen over the past several years with Barrett at quarterback. We're going to be a more of a pass-first oriented offense. The question is going to be is, how are we going to look? Everybody knows the quarterback run was Urban Meyer's binky. He said it himself. Anytime he needed a go-to play, that was it. That's necessarily not going to be the case coming up in the future. So I'm curious to see how this offense emerges. I know in the building they're very confident and believe that this may be one of the best offenses they had there as far as the collective talent that they have coming back and the talent also coming in the doors. So they're very bullish, thinking that they're going to be able to light up the scoreboard like it's 4th of July. We'll see. I think they had the potential, but I also think that it can go to another level if Urban Meyer takes a slight step back and allow Kevin Wilson and Ryan Day to do their thing.
Let's talk some recruiting real quick. We'll get you out of here. Tyler Friday, very appropriately, will announce later today on Friday. He was going to announce last Friday. He's going to announce this Friday. So at least he's consistent. He's Friday, and he announces on Friday. So I'm not really breaking news here. I think probably most people listening to the show realize what's going to happen. But J-Book, I feel like we're going to see a boom from Mark Pantoni on Twitter later today.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be a big get for the Buckeyes, especially taking a guy from Michigan. I know there was a lot of chatter from the Michigan side saying that they were being heavily negative recruited. They never actually said it was Ohio State. They were using the line that Greg Madison was going to retire. That's what they've been told. There was some chatter about that Friday the coach I can't even think of his name, from Michigan, who recruits his area. He was a local high school coach, and he was supposedly thinking about leaving. So that kind of pushed things back for him. Who knows? But at the end of the day, it's looking like he's going to be a Buckeye, which is good for the good guys. This defensive line haul, this class is tremendous. And on top of that, you get to kick Michigan water down.
And Rasheed Walker, he has now passed Jackson Carman in the 24/7 Sports rankings, not the composite, but the in-house 24/7 Sports rankings, and maybe eventually he'll pass. He's really close in the composite. Maybe he'll pass Carman as well. So, man, how interesting would that be if it worked out? Oh man, look, the Buckeyes missed out on Jackson Carman. How could that happen? They end up landing someone ranked even higher than him. But I know, like, some people think it's a 50-50 proposition. Curious where you come down on this. Do you think ultimately Rasheed Walker will be a Buckeye?
Yeah, I'm gonna follow our own Alex Gleitman lead on this. I know he posted on the board that things are starting to trend towards the Buckeyes. I know that reading some of the reports from the Army All-American game, Walker really had a good vibe with the other Ohio State commits that are down there. There's even pictures of him throwing up the OHIO with a couple of the guys. So I think Ohio State, especially having the last shot here before signing day, is really positioning himself to snag an absolute gem and tackle to pair him with Max Ray, who's going to be a stud as well. So this is, overall, you have to be excited with those two prospects, and there's a couple other guys on the board that they're pushing late after, but I think Ohio State, they're going to get Friday, and then I also think they're in a prime position to snag Walker from Penn State.
Great knowledge, as always, from Jonah Booker. Thank you very much, J-Book. You can read his column every week on Bucknuts. It is outside Columbus. You can catch him on Twitter at JBook37. He's all over the front row message board as well. So thank you very much, J-Book, and thanks to all listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great day and a great weekend. Let's hear that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.